All right, good afternoon. So we've got author James Rosone interviewing author Brett Battles, the top crime thriller on Amazon.
I don't know about top, but
You're up there. I'm super excited to talk with you because you're an amazing author and you've got some of the best books out there. Just nominated for, what is it, Crime Thriller of the Year?
no, for a thriller award from the International Thriller Society, or organization,
Now, is it
ITW.
something we all go and vote for to pick which book is the one?
No, it's a judged thing. So they'll be announcing. Usually they announce at Thriller Fest in the summer, but that, of course, has been canceled. So they'll be announcing the winner on. I think they're doing a Facebook Live thing on July 11th, I believe.
Okay.
That's about all I know. I just recently found out, so I'm pretty excited.
We're pulling for you to win. I think
Thank
you're
you.
amazing. I'm really excited for you to get this nomination. That's a
Thank you.
really, really big deal to get nominated for something like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty prestigious award, so I'm pretty happy. Just getting nominated is pretty cool. So,
well, I hope my tropical jungle parrots and birds in the background aren't causing too much trouble because I'm out in
not too distracting. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm out in Lanai. It's southern Florida. You know, we got all kinds of wild birds out here, so it gets a little crazy.
Fair enough.
You hear that? That's what's going on. So one of the questions I have for you is, how long have you been writing? But more importantly, what did you do before you became an author? Because us readers are fascinated with your backstory.
Okay. Well, I'm one of those people who in 5th grade told everyone I was going to be a novelist. So I had made that decision very early in my life. I think in large part because I just love reading and all the stories, and I had a great 5th grade teacher who would read to us after lunch every day, and just really got me interested in it, and I wanted to tell the stories myself. It took me a while to get there, so a lot of life happened in between, and I went to film school at Cal State Northridge, and after that I ended up working in television for like 25 years. The first few years I worked in a small television studio that rented out to different productions. I worked on things like People's Court, and there was another daytime show called Superior Court. So I was there in the Judge Wapner days of People's Court and Randy the bailiff, and I would like pull cables, or if we didn't have enough people in the audience, I'd get to sit in the audience sometimes, or if friends come and visit me, I'd put them in the audience. But I was like low man on the totem pole. I was just like,
Sure.
Get me the coffee, get me this, get me that. I do have a fun story once that when I was working there, we shoot a lot of different commercials there and everything. And there was a commercial we were shooting, or something we were shooting, and it was with Dudley Moore. And he shows up in this gigantic Rolls Royce, one with those long noses, and the cab is in the back end and all that stuff. And he pulls into the staff parking lot, for the senior staff, which is a very small parking lot. Basically just pulls in and blocks all the cars. And my boss comes to me and he goes, you got to move Dudley Moore's car. And I'm going, okay. And so I run down over to the dressing room where Dudley Moore was. And, first of all, I'm like, oh my God, this is Dudley Moore. But I lean in and I go, Mr. Moore, can I have your keys? We need to move your car. And he looks at me and he kind of gives me that, look, and he goes, I don't think so. And then he moved the car himself. But it didn't even dawn on me. Of course he wouldn't want me moving his car, but that was fun. So I went from there, and I ended up working most of my career in television graphics, not as a graphic artist, but as a producer and later executive producer. So basically project manager for these different projects. We would do main titles for TV shows. We'd do the graphic packages like you would use for a news broadcast that have the lower thirds and the different special things that come on between different segments. And the bugs and the every, you know, I used to know all that stuff. And I did that clear up until my last job was at E Entertainment for 8 years, doing that. That's where I was an executive producer in the online graphics department.
Wow.
And then I sold my first book, and I sold it in 2005. It came out, The Cleaner came out in 2007. And then in 2008, my second book came out. I had a 3-book deal when I first started, and I had already delivered the third book. And so it was time for a new contract. And they gave me a new contract that this is the summer of 2008 for 2 more books. That was enough that I could, if not comfortably, reasonably live on for at least 3 years.
Okay.
And for me, the chance to try to write full time was worth taking the leap. So I took the leap at that point and began writing full time in the fall of 2008, 1 week before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. So, and the whole industry began to tank after that. And my editor and and the head of my imprint were gone from my publisher within months. And suddenly I was with people who didn't care about me, and my new books didn't come out in a hardback and didn't get any promo. It was their choice. They didn't choose me to be there, the new people, but I was just kind of legacy.
Right.
But it was clear I was going to be left to die on the vine. And then when that contract came up, after I delivered those 2 books, which I tried to do very quickly, I think by 2010, yeah, I had delivered both of those, and they had been accepted. Both books had been accepted and finished. And though neither of them come out yet. And then because I was contractually obligated, I presented my next idea, which I was hoping that they would reject, and which they absolutely fulfilled my hopes and rejected me. And then I was going to go look for a new publisher. But in the meantime, I said, well, I'll dip my hand in some indie publishing and see how that goes.
Yeah.
But really, for the most part, haven't looked back since.
You've been kind of like a legend in the indie publishing. I mean, what you've been able to achieve as an indie author in your genre has been astounding, because I don't know that there are many authors that write in your genre that have done nearly as well as you have. You just crushed it.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I don't keep track of that kind of thing. I just assume everybody's doing either the same or better than me. That's just I just keep my head down, and I write and I put out books, and I can't help how other people are due. I mean, I do think I was helped by and benefited from having had 5 books come out from Random House at the beginning of my career. There's no doubt about that. I've got some killer blurbs just off of those first 5 books that I still use, because I write in that same series still.
Yeah.
And then it's also, I have contacts with a lot of top authors around who I can reach out to if I need help with that kind of stuff. So that has definitely been a benefit. But other than that, it's just I write and I put them out. The good thing about not being traditionally published anymore is I'm not hamstringed by only being allowed to have 1 book out a year. And I'm a fast writer, and I was a fast writer even from the beginning. It's just we all write at different speeds, but I just happen to write at a fairly fast speed, though not quite as fast as I did a few years ago. But in those first few years of indie publishing, it was easy for me to write 4 books a year and get them out. And that's what I do. Now I'm more on a 3-book a year pace. Occasionally it goes down to 2.5 in 1 year, but as far as like getting written, but it's basically 3 books a year. Although with not being able to travel much, I might be able to get 4 out this year because there's nowhere for me to go. I love to travel, so I'm always traveling for a month or 2 every year. So that's not probably going to happen this year, unfortunately. So, but yeah, so that's probably a lot more than you asked, but there's the
No,
history
that's
of me.
really fascinating to know about your TV background and what you had worked in before, because I'm sure when you worked on the people's court and things like that with Judge Wapner and them, you probably heard some really interesting cases. You probably heard some really interesting stories.
You know what? I probably did, and I don't remember any of them.
Did you do any, like ride-alongs, like with police ride-alongs to
No,
help?
I never did any of that. That would be interesting. I don't write crime fiction in that way. My books are, well, my Quinn series is espionage series mainly, and then I have a couple spin-offs from it. One is a more espionage spin-off, but the other one is a more of a crime spin-off. But it's like it's like a it's not Reacher, but it's like somebody out doing good, helping people out who can't help themselves. But he's not just doing it on his own. He has people also assisting him. That's the book that got nominated. Night Man was the first book in that series. So, but it's not like cop stuff. I don't write cop stuff because I just don't know it.
Yeah.
If I ever do need that, then at that point I'll probably say, hey, who do I know?
Have you ever thought about doing, like a tour with the behind-the-scenes tour with the FBI, learning about some of their procedures and how they do some of their things?
I think it would be interesting. Definitely. I haven't been in a position where I've needed that for any of my stuff, so I haven't given it as much consideration as I probably should. But I don't rule it out as a possibility in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just interesting to see how people come across their material and what they use. I rely so much on my own government experience. I did 10 years in the military, and then I did 8 years as a DoD contractor. 3.5 years of my time was spent in Iraq, and the 3.5 years was spent in Europe hunting terrorists in, non-permissive environments where you are on a street with in Switzerland or some other city, and you got to be covert about what it is you're doing, who you're tracking, what it is you're doing. And so it's been fun to be able to integrate a lot of that into the books. And so I'm always fascinated with how other really successful authors take either their backstory and integrate it in, or find ways to come up with the most novel ideas.
Right. Well, I tell you what I do is, because I also write science fiction too. I have several science fiction books, and it's the same process I use in those that I do even for my spy books, or just my straight crime, or well, my kind of PI, helping the person who needs help kind of guy thing. Is every single one of these I'm world building, and I'm not building our world. I'm building a world that's close to ours, but it's of my own invention. So as long as I handle that with confidence in my writing and tell a good story, then if I think the FBI are going to do this, and it's kind of close to what they do, or is at least logical for what they might do, it just work. It goes right out. It works right in, because my goal, there are writers, there are a lot of writers who come at stuff strictly as a research, everything is research based and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. That's what they do. I come from the, everything is story and how the story is told base. And I don't let the truth get in the way of telling the story. Not that I'm saying that these other people let the truth get in the way either. They know how to do that, but it's coming at the same thing from two different angles. And we both could tell the same story in different ways, and both books can be great. It's just this, I happen to be coming from this other direction that kind of is more relying on just my imagination than a ton of research. I do research, but I also don't let it control what I'm writing. I mean, that in my first drafts, there tends to be a lot of extra stuff like that I would have picked up on some of the research stuff I've done, but a lot of that just gets cut out,
Now, do you think when you write, do you tend to write more where it's plot and story driven than it is more character driven? Because there are some authors, the entire book is around this one character, or
Right.
two characters, and everything is happening around either supporting or against this character. And then there are other authors who are much more plot and story driven. It's about the story. It's about the plot of what's happening.
Well, I don't think any
Supporting actors.
right. I don't think. I mean, if you're going to tell a good story, then you're going to have good characters, and so good story starts with good characters and being and developing them into more than just cardboard cutouts that are going to tell the story you want to tell. So it is a kind of a combination, but characters come first.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, somebody will read some of my books and they'll say, oh, this is very plot driven. It goes here and here and here and here and here. But they will, hopefully they will also say, you know, I love these characters. I can kind of get completely behind this person, or I understand the relationship between these two and all that, because I try to put all of that into them. I mean, the characters are what's important to me. You know, I have books also that are multiple point of view. So you're getting a lot of different characters. And then I have books that are completely from a single's point of view. Some that are told in the first person, some that are told in third person, you know, present tense, past tense. It's all to serve character and character to serve story.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And I think that's a very hard thing to master for a lot of people. We've been working on that part of the craft ourselves, my wife and I, where we have, because we were at the military thrillers. And so we'll have a one POV where we're in Ukraine and we're following these sergeants and officers dealing with that battle. And we switched to a whole nother POV where now we're following a bunch of Marines in Korea. It's a totally different, you know, military branches, totally different fight that they're in. And they all interact and deal with the stressors differently. And they all are trying to survive in a different way, a different manner, a different adversary. And I think that's really kind of neat when you can get the reader so sucked in that at the end of the book, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you ended this book like this. I've got to wait 3 more months for the next one.
Well, that's the goal, isn't it?
That's how it's supposed to be. That's a sign of it.
More.
Yeah. So you got this new book coming out. What can you tell us about this new book, and what are your past and future, or what are your past readers and new readers going to enjoy about this book?
Well, this book is the follow-up to Night Man, which was the book that is nominated for the award. So it conveniently coming out at around the same time.
For the award.
Like I planned it. I don't know. No, I did not. But and so it's the Night Man Chronicles is what I'm calling the series, and this is only the second book in the series. It's called Insidious, and it is it's a first person book from the point of view of one of the characters from my long-running Quinn series. He is so his day job is being a spy, working with my Jonathan Quinn on his team. In fact, he used to be Quinn's at the very big start of my series, back in The Cleaner, my very first book. Nate, what's this guy's name? Nate was Quinn's apprentice, and now he's worked up to be like a partner and everything. But now he on the side, when he's between gigs, he's kind of gotten into the hobby of helping helping the helpless in essence. And part of that is, and you know, I'm not really giving much away here because it if you read the first book, you'll find out quickly enough. And also in the second book, they're both written so you can read them separately. They're standalone stories. But his girlfriend was killed like a year before. It was about 9 months before Night Man took place, and about a year before this book takes place. And she has kind of come back to him. He hears her voice, and she's pointing him in directions of helping people. And he knows that he's probably just manifesting this in himself, and a lot of it's his own intuition. But there are occasions that happen where it makes him not sure what's going on. So he's kind of doing this because he knows that she would want him to help these people. Whether she's actually a real presence or not, doesn't matter. And she's not heavily through any of the books, but she drops in every once in a while, giving him a nudge or whatever. And he's still thinking that maybe he's crazy in that sense,
Sure.
which is great though. I mean, it gives him, it's a nice, it helps build, we can get more of a look into the way he thinks about things and his character and stuff. Now, as far as Insidious goes, it basically starts with him going on a hike on one morning at the suggestion of his dead girlfriend, right? And stumbling across a dead body. And so he assumes that she did that on purpose, in a way, in his head. But whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, he kind of thinks it's true, and he also kind of thinks that he's just being crazy. But what ends up happening is there's a lot more to this dead person than meets the eye. And with the help of another one of the Quinn's team members, who he's starting to have a close relationship with, not quite romantic relationship because he's not ready for that, and yet he kind of, I mean, you don't know. There's a lot of tension there. They take on the task of finding out who killed this girl, because they realize that the police are going down the wrong road, and they can do things that the police can't do. They don't have to wait for search warrants. They don't have to be nice when they talk to suspects or anything. Plus, they have all these skills and resources as freelance operatives in their day job that even regular PIs and all that don't have. Yeah. And so they have tons of skills, and no one, there are few people who would be up to the task of taking them on. They can get surprised sometimes, but they are pretty good at what they do. And in this book, there's a lot of, we learn a lot more about the girl who has come to help him, and we see how their relationship is going. So that's for the old readers of the series. They getting some of that. From the new readers, it's an exciting like onion of an adventure, trying to figure out what is going on here. Figuring out why, who killed this, who's responsible for the dead body he stumbled upon. Yeah. And the subsequent bodies that seem to be piling up afterward, that seem connected. And it has what I think is a very nice resolution at the end too. So
I like it. No, it sounds like an amazing book. Now, how long is this book in comparison to the other ones? Is it about the same length?
It's about the same. I go from, I mean, depending on it, my Quinn books tend to average between 90 and 105,000. These books, the Night Man was probably 85, and this one will probably end up being just around somewhere between 87 and 90. We're just doing a final edit, so things might condense a little bit. And then I have some books that are, I have books that are as little as like 75 to 85 to, I guess anywhere from 75 to 100, depending on the book. I should have said that first.
I need to keep figuring out how to shrink them down, because my books tend to be between 106,000 and 128,000 in length. So
that's a tome there. That's a doorstop.
I know. It's 600 pages in print. It's a meaty book. But
that is a meaty book.
Almost a 14-hour Audible too. So the Audibles do all right, because people like that long Audible book.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So you got this one coming out. What are you working on next, and when is the timeline for the next one?
Well, I just this week started. This week, as of recording this, I started working on the 15th book in my Quinn series, and in theory, if I'm able to stick to my normal schedule, that should be coming out in early September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And you've already got the pre-order up for that one as well, so we can
No, I am reticent to put up a pre-order before I finished a book.
okay.
You know, and so I usually put up a pre-order usually goes up about a month ahead for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I would love to do a long one. I'd love to do a long and test that out, but I need a book that I finish like a year ahead of time or 6 months ahead of time that allows me to do that, because
it's rough, man. I'll tell you, before Amazon made their change, because now you can have a pre-order for up to a year. But before, it was 90 days. So I had 3 books done before I put book 1 up for pre-order. And book 1 had to be in the editing process before I put it up. And then before book 1 would publish, I had book 2 up for pre-order. And I'd take the hyperlink for book 2 and I'd add it at the very end of book 1, because I always made sure there was a terrible clip right there. And they go, crap. And then I leave a little snippet of the next book with the pre-order and say, just pre-order it now so it's automatically delivered. And guess what? We always deliver early. Man, we were back up 2,500, 3,000, almost 4,000 pre-orders doing that little strategy. And so it's a pretty lucrative way to do it. Because we're not one of those authors where we price our books at $2.99, $3.99. Our books are priced at $5.99 and $6.99. And that's the price point we've kind of held. And for years, our audience is built and accepts that. And it's just the audience that we've gone into. So a lot of people look at
that's still an excellent price. That's what mine are too. Mine are $5.99.
Unlimited. So I have no problems with the price because you can read them for free in Kindle Unlimited. But what I found is guys who like Dale Brown and David Foyer, who are the traditional published military thrillers, their books are all at usually $14.99 or $9.99. So if mine is $6.99 and my cover looks as good or better than theirs, and my ad description is as good or better, people buy it.
Right.
You know, it's good strategy. You know. And one of the other things I'm really proud and glad that you're participating with this is we have this Veterans Anthology coming up that we're releasing in the end of May. And I'm super excited that you're a part of this and helping us with this as we
look to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. So we look to raise $100,000 to support these veteran charity groups. This is going to be a great endeavor. And I really think we're going to make it. We're doing something different too. So what we want this to be an annual thing for one. So we're making it Memorial Day 2020. We've got the logos, but what we're doing is we're also putting a GoFundMe page that'll be with it. So people who want to donate more than $9.99 to purchase the anthology, they can do that through the GoFundMe page. And then we're able to retain all of those emails from the donors. So we can leverage that again for next year to immediately go to either repurchase the anthology or to, again, donate and support these groups. But this is really great. We're going to provide a minimum of, the money to provide 10 service dogs for veterans who need a service animal. And then the rest of the money is going towards helping to make those adaptive smart homes for folks who have lost a limb or an arm or are blind and have smart homes to be able to function normally. So this is a really good endeavor, and I'm really, really glad that you're helping us out with this.
Happy to be part of it.
So having more big name authors involved in it helps bring more awareness to it. And for $10, it's a heck of a steal. And it's also going to be in KU, so people can download and read it for free too. But it's a great way for people to get a Brett Battle book, and we got A.G. Riddle involved and Doug Richards. I mean, we got some big name authors in this thing, so it's gonna be pretty slick. So yeah, you got the next book out, man. I'm super excited for this launch.
Me too.
So, what are you gonna do when we're done with the quarantine and it's safe for us to leave our homes again? Do you have some kind of like special thing? Like someone says, when I graduate college, I'm going to Vegas, or like when I'm getting back from Iraq, I'm going to go do this. What's your first thing you're going to go do?
Well, I think what a lot of people might fail to realize is that a lot of authors are introverted, stay-at-home writers, and this is no different than normal life to me.
I know, right? One time I want to leave, I'm being told I can't. I'm freaking out.
I know. I know. I mean, I go to, get some food from a restaurant that hasn't been open for a while. Maybe that's what I'll do. I haven't, I'm not going stir crazy by any means. So
Yeah.
this is just normal for me. I live in my head anyway.
I didn't have 3 kids that are stuck at home with me, this would be no skin off my nose. Wouldn't phase
My
me.
kids are all adults.
Yeah. You're lucky that your kids are adult. And I saw that cake your daughter made where it was a
Pretty awesome.
roll of toilet paper.
Yeah,
That
that was
was
pretty funny.
so cool.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That was pretty neat. So what's your next big vacation? What's the next vacation? Because you said you travel a month to 2 months a year. So
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to leave for Thailand in about a month, but that's off.
love
Um, and since I don't know when travel will be back up and running again,
Yep.
I mean, I also am supposed to go with several friends on a river cruise in Europe in October, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't know. Next year, maybe.
Now,
I doubt I'm going anywhere this year.
have you been to Thailand before?
I've been to Thailand many times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my wife and I went, we were down in Krabi, and so we stayed in Krabi on that side, opposite end of Phuket, and we were
Right.
down there, and it was just we stayed at this Ravadine resort. Unbelievable! I didn't know, but they make 6-star resorts, and if you go during monsoon season, it's like 75% off. So we got to stay at
Well,
a 6-star resort for next to nothing.
yeah. Anytime I go there, I don't stay necessarily at just resorts, but there's some really nice boutique hotels, and
Yep.
you can get like a suite for $100 or less a night, and that's like, you never get that anywhere else. So
Or
it's like you're luxury living for normal price of a vacation. Of course, you got to pay for the airplane ticket, but beyond that,
what's your favorite country to go to? What's your favorite place?
well, I do love Thailand. That's one of my favorite places to go. But last summer, I took my daughters to Japan, and that was such an awesome trip. I loved it so much. Can't wait to go back there again sometime. I would probably put that close to number one, if not number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think my number 1, 2, and 3. So number 1 would be Switzerland. I have been to Switzerland probably 50 times because I live in Stuttgart, Germany, so it's easy for me to go on the weekend to Lucerne.
Right.
I love Switzerland. Number 2 would be Portugal. Portugal is just an incredible place. There's this place out of Lisbon called Sintra, and there's an old Moorish castle that's up there, and then the architect who built the Cinderella Castle and the Neuschwanstein Castle in Nigeria, he built a second castle out in Sintra, and it is truly incredible. It's not quite as the Neuschwanstein one, but you can walk through the whole thing. And then number 3 would be Thailand, because Thailand is just stunning.
Thailand's stunning, and the food is so awesome.
Amazing.
And the people are really friendly. I have a lot of friends there, so. Yeah,
we're looking at when our son gets a little older is we're going to take our kids and we're going to just homeschool them. And we're going to go and we're going to spend 2 months in an Airbnb in one location where we can still write and homeschool. And then 2 months in another region, and then 2 months in another region, because we want to take a couple of years and just travel around the world with them where they can get a real unique experience like that.
Yeah, I have some friends I know, acquaintances, friends, who took their daughters on around the world. They did it for a year and traveled around and homeschooled them. And also they hit all the UNESCO World Heritage sites and all this stuff. It was such a cool education and everything.
It's incredible. And if you have the opportunity to do it, you really should do it, because your kids are going to be so much better for it.
Travel opens your eyes to everything.
It does. It really does. It makes you better at everything. And I don't know if a lot of people know about this. Maybe you don't know about this, but you can call the airlines directly, and you can actually purchase what's called a round the world plane ticket. What they give you is between 35 and 55 destinations you can purchase, and up to 100,000 miles. And once you activate it, you typically have 2 years to use it. So
I didn't know it was 2 years, but don't you have to keep going in the same direction though?
I believe you do have to go in the same direction. So what they were telling me is they'll start out like they'll go to Asia, it's like Japan, and then they'll
Yeah,
crisscross like Korea or Vladivostok, and then go down into China. They'll crisscross all over China, and then Thailand and Southeast Asia. Then they'll get to like New Zealand and Australia. They just literally go up and down the whole world like that. But
right.
it's an incredible experience. I met these two girls from Canada taking a gap year, well, 2 years,
Right.
and 2 years, they traveled to almost 60 countries that way. It
I
was,
think it's great. I wish I knew about these things when I was young, and wish
yeah,
I had some money to do it.
well, I'm not young anymore. I'm a little, and I've got some, physical challenges from, 3 years of being in Iraq, but I have some of the financial means. I just got to get my kids a little older so
Right.
we're homeschool them, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to just
That's
take,
a great idea. I love that idea. Love it.
yeah, or they just got to be able to see so much. I want to live in Bali for like a year if I can. Live in Thailand for a year. Live in India for a little while. Just there's so many places to see and so much to do, and the food's all wonderful, and so you just got to try it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and who knows, you'll come up with a great book idea. Maybe
Well, you would hope. You would hope with all that travel, for sure.
I know maybe your Quinn guy's gonna have some action adventure in Tokyo. You're gonna have to like go to.
Oh, he definitely is.
Dude,
I use everywhere I go.
you got to research, man. You got to research. Go to those countries to research where you're going to have the next Quinn book.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I do, actually. So.
Yeah. So I love it. So okay, before we end, what are
Mhm.
some of your favorite authors you like to read? Now I know you probably have a lot of trad pubs, but let's try and promote some indie authors. What are some of your
Good.
favorite indie authors?
Well, um, I have to think about that. Well, I definitely love A.G. Riddle's stuff.
Oh, me.
Um, yeah, so he's definitely been someone I've been hitting hard a lot lately. So very interesting stuff. I see. I tend to be more when I read these days. I tend to read more science fiction and fantasy. Um, so I'm trying to think of which. I never remember who's trad and who's not. And lately, I've been. I think I've done several trad books recently. So, because I'm going to name like Stephen King, and I'm going to name John Scalzi and N.K. Jemisin and different people like that. I'm trying to think of some of the indies that I'm coming up blank right now, which sucks. I didn't prepare ahead of time for that question. I will say, I should, I can't pull it out. I'm going to totally mess up my camera here, so I apologize. But this is a trad published book, but it has been one of my favorite books recently. And it's ironically about a virus, but it's called The Hollow Kingdom.
Okay.
And it's all told from first person point of view of a crow.
Huh.
And it is excellent. It is absolutely excellent.
I'm going to need to look at that because that's a
Yeah.
unique perspective.
It is shot up to one of my all-time favorite books,
Wow.
and I highly recommend it, especially if you like apocalyptic novels or something. This is a whole different take on that whole thing, and it's funny and it's poignant and it's sad and it's hopeful and it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Man. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to actually go on Amazon and buy that one today. I really like that one. That one is probably my all-time favorite. Is probably is Jerry Riddle's. I really like A.G. Riddle's books. His stuff's amazing. I got hooked when I read Pandemic and then, Genome when that came out. I was like, holy cow! How is this guy able to? The way he writes and crafts the story, it's just incredible because it's so visually rich.
Right.
You are literally understand everything that the character is seeing and feeling, and how he's able to weave so much of the story and the villains and the people that you should normally hate, but you end up liking and pulling for them.
Right. Well, that's writing well drawn characters. That's important.
Yeah, I was telling him when I talked with him a while back, I was like, man, I really do try to like read your book and then figure out how can I write like Jerry because he's just really good. You know,
Yeah,
so I try to find people who are substantially better than me at either like character development or visually descriptions or writing technology, and just see how they do it and figure out how can I take some of what they're doing and integrate it into what I'm doing to make myself a better writer. Like I listen to masterclass.com and I'll listen to David Baldacci and I'll listen to Dan Brown, and these guys talk about the craft of how you have to set that pacing where the reader gets to the end of the chapter and they go, oh my God, I can't believe it's here. I've got to turn the page and figure out what happens next. And then they find out what happens next, but now it leads them into another thread. So they literally end up keep turning the page. And now it's like 3 a.m. They got to get up in 3 hours.
that's my goal every time I write.
It's my goal too. Every time I write, I look at a chapter ending and then I say, from this ending, how did I transition to the next chapter? Did I do it right? And I tell you, I've spent so many hours watching those guys on Masterclass just talk about that, how they do it. And then I look at my own and I say, am I replicating this? Am I doing this the same way?
Mm-hmm.
And like my current series, I've gotten better with every series. The current one, we got our read through from books 1 through 4 because 1 came out in May of last year. We've got our read through all the way up to 92% at this point.
That's
So
great.
this series, I finally hit that stride because my
That's
previous,
fantastic.
yeah, the previous series was like 72%. I was like, this is awesome, we're crushing it. And the one
Right.
before that was like maybe 48 or 42. So I knew I wasn't hitting the mark. But I'm trying to strive where every series, every book gets that much better that you just get sucked in. You got to keep doing that.
Absolutely. That's the key.
Yep. Yep. And one other tidbit, if you haven't used this before, one thing that will really help you understand what your read through is or where in the series the books are dropping off. There's a company called Readerlinks.com. It's $20 a month basically. And what you do is you download all of your AMS data and then all of your sales data, and you put this stuff into you just take all the Excel spreadsheets and you dump it into their software. And what it'll do is it will track for you month by month what your read throughs are. And that really helps you know what series is doing good, where in the series is it dropping. Like a friend of mine, his read through is like probably around 70% through books 5. But book 6 on up, it drops down into 40s. So the question is, what happened between book 5 and book 6 in the series that caused the vast majority of the readers to drop off? And once he was able to figure that out, he was able to correct that and fix that so you can change that going forward. Because I'm kind of a data nerd. I like looking at the data and saying, how to kind of leverage this to make me a better writer, a better
Yeah.
in everything.
I love that. I'm not a data nerd, not part of that stuff. And so you're saying all that to me and I'm going, yeah, sounds good. I just want to write. I'm just going with my gut.
Well, yeah, I get it, but if I can write
I write the stories I want to read.
one day, I'll be there one day.
Yeah, I write the stories I want to read.
Yes.
That's my goal. That's all I do.
That's what I do with my military books is I write about the types of wars and conflicts and things I want to read about. And they're just not written about. I've got a new series coming out in the summer called The Monroe Doctrine. And I don't know if you know a lot of U.S. history, how the Monroe Doctrine works, back in the 1700s and early 1800s, we had this thing where we said the Northern Hemisphere and the Central America and Southern Hemisphere is the United States domain. No nation is allowed inside this bubble. And so we're writing a book on the Monroe Doctrine, which is going to essentially have, a foreign adversary deciding, you know what, I think we're going to test this. And so we're going to revolve around Cuba, Venezuela, and Panama, which has never been done before. So I'm really excited about that.
Good. Sounds good.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun. All right. Well, I have kept you on here for nearly an hour or around an hour, so I should let you get going because I know you've got more work to do, and we are very excited for your newest book. We will make sure to promote the heck out of it when it's time, and hopefully you're going to see a big bump in sales from it.
I appreciate that. Been fun talking.
You too. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Good.